Hello everyone, this is Renier Castellanos, and today we have a very nice game from the tournament played in Bosnia just a week ago, I think. Okay, the game is between Timofeev and A-Gustaffson. It was a Spanish opening, and White won with a. There was a very nice attack in the middle game involving sacrifices. Alright, here we go. Bishop b5, a6, the Spanish opening, and then bishop e7, rook e1, b5, bishop b3, castle, and now White plays h3. This is one way of avoiding the martial attack. For those who don't know, martial attack starts after c3, black plays d5, and it has become the main weapon with black in this position, at the top level of course. h3, now black plays bishop b7, insisting on playing d5. If he wanted to transpose to the main lines of the closed variation of the Spanish opening, he would play d6 followed by knight a5 or knight b8, depending on which variation he chooses. Alright, with the thing is that after bishop b7, if White plays c3, then d5 is quite complicated. After he takes d5, knight takes on d5, and for example, if White takes the pawn now, black has the move knight f4, which is very annoying. Alright, White avoids these complications and plays d3. This is the modern way. There are lots of games with this move. Now black plays d6. Still, if he wants to play d5, it's possible. Many people like Spiedler, Peter Bleko, Renier, they have played this move and it has worked. But it looks like White is still better, at least a little, after e takes on d5, knight takes, and then c3. The move knight takes on e5 is also possible, but black has good counterplay and good compensation after the move knight d4. For example, knight d2, rook e8, knight f3, knight takes on b3. Obviously, the two bishops are the main compensation for the pawn. f6, knight d4, and c5. White is a pawn up, but black has an active position, controls the center. The bishop on b7 is very strong. So, and White pieces, you can see that they're not very active. The knight are in poor squares. f6, d4 under control. e5 and d4 are both squares that impossible for each knight. So after queen e2, h5, the knight h2, bishop d6, queen f1, White holds the pawn, but the game was agreed draw here between Ivanchuk with the white pieces and Spiedler with black. That was 2 years ago. Okay, but the thing is that after c3, White still keeps with some pressure against the pawn on e5. He wants to capture in better conditions, not allowing knight d4, and also knight d2 and knight e4 is a plan. For example, after bishop f6, like as played by Renier against Grishuk, knight d2, knight f4. Now black is attacking the pawn on d3, but knight e4, knight takes on f6. The king side is now the black king is now open after d takes, and rook e4 with good compensation for the pawn. For example, rook d4, queen takes on c1. Now the idea is queen h6. Black cannot play rook g8 yet because f7 is hanging too. So knight e7, bishop c2. The threat is queen h6 with mate threats on g7 and h7. So rook g8, knight g6, and knight h4. You can see that white has a good play here for the pawn. Alright, let's return to the main game. Black played d6. Gustafsson, with the black pieces, has played this position several times before, so he's still following his own footsteps from previous games. c3, knight a5. This is a common idea in the Spanish opening. Black plays knight a5, gaining a tempo, following with c5. Other moves like knight b8, idea of knight bd7, of course, are possible. Also rook e8 and even queen d7 in this position. Everything is possible. Okay, so knight a5, bishop c2, pretty much the only move, c5, and knight bd2. Okay, now black played rook e8. Another common idea is to play immediately knight c6, bringing the knight from a5 immediately. Okay, but after knight f1, black will probably continue with rook e8 anyway. Of course, d5 is another move, but sometimes it's not good for black to play d5 so early, especially when the center is not under control completely. White can take on d5 and play knight d3 with some pressure on e5, or he can also try moves like knight e3, heading to f5. And for example, after g6, e takes on d5, and now knight takes, queen takes, bishop b3. The queen has to go to d6 in order to keep e5 defended, and then queen e2, rook e8, bishop a6, bishop f6, and now knight g5 wins the bishop pair for white. Well, bishop takes, bishop takes. It's a slightly better position for white. Okay, let's go back to the game. After rook e8, knight f1. Typical idea, knight is going to e3 or to g3. And now black played a6, which is a good move, I think. Other possibility is to play bishop f8 immediately, but I guess black was trying to avoid the move bishop g5, which sometimes is very annoying because black has a weak square on d5 and he needs the knight to protect that weak square. For example, after h6, bishop h4, move like bishop e7, black trying to get out of the pin, and then knight e3, with the idea of taking on f6, playing bishop b3 and bishop d5 is a common idea in this type of positions of the Spanish opening. It's not easy because the knight on a5, when it goes to c6, white plays bishop b3. That's the problem. And if it doesn't go to c6, white can play a3 and b4 and then bishop b3. Okay, so black played the move h6, knight g3. Other move possible here is immediately d4, but in practice it hasn't shown any good results for white. I mean, the complete liquidation of the center seems to lead to an equal position after all the takes and bishop f8. Now white has pressure against the pawn on e4, and he wants to play d5 very soon. For example, now after knight d3, rook c8, b3, normal move to develop bishop b2, or to stop the knight from going to c4, and then d5 was good for black. After e5, knight e4, white wins a pawn, but as usual black has plenty of compensation. Knight c6, the knight on d4 is pinned, bishop b2, and rook takes on e5, gets the pawn back, and the position is just about equal. Rook e1, rook d8, knight c6, and they repeat moves here. It was again Spiedler with white pieces against Yakovenko as black. Probably, now that I look again, yeah, maybe white can improve with here in this position with knight f5. Maybe just that could be an idea, but okay, I'll leave that for further investigation. After h6, knight g3, black played bishop f8, and now white went d4. Basically, white has no more useful moves. There is what to play if not d4. He can try knight h2, for example, but every time white plays a move like this, moving the knight away from the center, it gives reasons for d5, and black is supposed to be okay after he plays this move. So d4 is the main move, played in many games before. Black took on d4. It's also possible to play knight c4, but after d5 or b3, knight b6, and d5, white has the usual space advantage, and he can later start an attack on the king side. Okay, so in the game, black took on d4, and after c takes on d4, we are arriving the critical moment here, when black played d5. In my opinion, is more testing to play e takes d4, and after knight takes d4, the position transposes to the game by Spiedler against Yakovenko, in which black played rook c8 now. There are also other moves he could try, for example the move knight c4, with the idea that after b3, knight d5, bishop b2, rook c8, black has some activity, but these positions are very tricky. For example, rook c1, queen b6, and now king h1. This is a part of my analysis. There is no games with this position. King h1, and the idea is to play f4, or first queen d2 and then f4. And now, if black plays with g6, which is a normal move, queen d2, bishop g7, and now an idea here typical is knight f5, sacrificing the knight for 2 pawns. After g takes on f5, knight takes, white will win either the pawn on a6, or he's going to get a strong attack with knight g7 and f4. So we can say that white has compensation in this position. For example, queen takes on a6, 2 pawns for fgs, and the black king is open. The dark square bishop is very strong, it has a strong value here. So it's very interesting, this type of sacrifice with the knight on f5. But okay, in this position the move rook c8 seems like a good test. Sargsyan, this is strong player from Armenia, played the move d5, but this doesn't equalize, at least in an obvious way. After e5, knight e4, white has the powerful knight f5, very strong move. The idea is that after rook takes on e5, white plays f3 and the knight on e4 is pinned. So Sargsyan played g6, and after knight takes, bishop takes, bishop takes, queen h4, white played bishop e3, defending the bishop and also the pawn on f2, knight c4, attacking the bishop on e3 and also the pawn on e5. And now white can try the move queen e2, with the idea that after knight takes on e5, getting the pawn back, he can play f3, knight g3, queen d2. White has 2 bishops. The bishop on b7 is very passive. He has threats like bishop g5. So the only question is what happens after knight c4. Well, bishop g5. The queen doesn't have many squares to go. Queen h5, queen f4, and we can see here the difference between the dark pieces and the white pieces. The knight on d4 is very strong, the bishop on c2 pointing at the king side. There are some threats, the knight on g3 under attack. It seems that white is much better in this position, even though the material is equal. He has the bishop pair as well. But anyway, like the way white played in the game, which was knight f3 and after knight takes on h4, it leads to an endgame in which white is better after knight takes on g6. Takes f3, takes on e4. Black now has to play rook e7, because if he takes immediately, white plays rook d7. But anyway, this is the endgame. a5, a3, e4. The problem is that e4 is a target. That pawn will be captured in the future. No matter how black plays, is always a target. So after trading rooks, rook d7, and then king f4, the repeated moves here, and rook d1, takes, bishop takes. This is a very sad endgame for black, of course. In the game was eventually a draw, but I think that white has better chances than what played in the game. It was played in 2007, Emanuel Berg from Sweden against Gabriel Sargsyan. Alright, let's go back to the game. After c takes on d4, black played an almost new move, d5. I could only find 3 games with this position, and one of them, I mean 2 of them, if we count this, they were played in this same tournament in Bosnia 2010. Alright, the idea is typical from other positions, but in this position it didn't occur many times. Okay, knight takes e5 now, and d takes on e4. Previously, knight takes on e4 had been played, but the problem is that white has the very strong move queen h5, attacking f7. In that game, white played bishop f4, which is not bad, it keeps a small advantage, but the move queen h5 is very strong, and I will tell you why. After g6, white plays queen f3, still attacking f7, and the idea is that if the queen moves, let's say to c7, white can take the pawn on e4, because there is no pressure against the d4 pawn once black takes with the d pawn. There is no queen on d8 anymore. So if he plays now knight f6, which defend both, then bishop d2, developing and attacking the knight on a5. Now after the obvious knight c4, white has this very strong move, knight h5. Black cannot take with the knight because of queen takes on f7, of course. To any move like knight takes on d2 or knight takes on e5, he's taking on f6 with check. So must take, and then queen g3 check, king h8 fails to knight f7 and knight g4. Now white can simply move the bishop and capture the knight on g4 on the next move with a clear advantage. Alright, but this is just an entertaining line, because it's obvious that d takes on e4 is the better move, freeing the diagonal for the bishop on b7, freeing the d5 square for the knight. Okay, it looks more, also shutting down the white pieces a little bit, especially the bishop on c2. Alright, now white played knight g4. In this same tournament, white tried the move bishop f4, and after rook c8, rook e2, knight c4, knight takes, bishop e5. The idea is to capture the pawn on e4, but even then, those positions are a little bit difficult to win, even after winning the pawn. Bishop d6, b3, and now white has an extra pawn, but there is opposite color bishops, and after rook c7 the game went on for many moves until it was a draw. I think black has, of course, full compensation for the pawn. Okay, but knight g4, an interesting move. Trading the knight that defends e4, but also the idea is not to capture the pawn, but to bring pieces to the king side and also eliminate the defender on f6. For example, if knight takes on g4, queen takes g4, this is a very interesting line. After, let's say he takes the pawn, knight f5 wins the pawn back. After queen c4, keeping the bishop on c2 under attack. Now bishop d2, attacking the knight on a5, and after queen takes on c2, white can play knight f7, king g8, repeat a couple of moves, and bishop takes on a5. This is possible to play. If g takes on a6, bishop c3, and the other questionable move is e3. Rook takes on e3, rook takes, pawn takes. Now black has always this threat on g2, queen takes b2, knight f7, and rook f1, defending the knight, and with every chance of a decisive attack. Position is a little bit unclear, but I have faith in white. Alright, of course knight takes on g4 is a risky move, but it was possible to play rook c8. Still, after knight takes on f6, queen takes, bishop e4, it looks like white is a little better. He won the e4 pawn, but rook takes on e4, for example, and now queen g6. If we look at this position, white is behind in development, and it's just a pawn, and this is the d4 pawn that is very, very weak. Black will play knight c4, bishop d6. For example, in case of knight g3, bishop d6. So I think this is fully playable for black, the move rook c8. In the game, black played knight c4, which is of course a good move, bringing the knight to the center. b3, knight d6, bishop f4. The idea is to play bishop e5, and now black played the move knight d5, which may have not been the best move. Interesting again, rook c8, bishop e5, takes, pawn takes. Of course, queen takes is not possible because the bishop on c2 is hanging, and then bishop d5. It looks acceptable for black, even if he loses the e4 pawn at some point. He will always have compensation for that pawn. Alright, back to the game. After knight d5, white played bishop e5, and now black played rook c8. Yeah, this is the critical moment here. Probably it was better to play knight c3. It attacks the queen, defends e4, and after queen d2, then rook c8. It is possible that black was afraid of knight h5, but after rook e6, there is no easy threat on, no obvious threat on the king side. The rook defends very well. It would lead to a very complex middle game. Knight f4, rook e7. Alright, let's get back to the game. After rook c8, white played the move knight e4. It's funny that after this move, white is clearly better. Let's say knight takes, bishop takes. I guess this was calculated by black when he played the move rook c8. But then there goes this idea, f6. It looks like, okay, I guess the idea was that after the bishop moves, black takes on e4, and then plays knight c3, and the knight attacks the rook on e4, and then the queen on d1. But there are some holes in this line. For example, white has now the move bishop f6. Of course, black cannot take on f6 because after bishop takes on b7, the position is clearly better for white, winning even. Takes, rook c7, queen e6 check. This is horrible for black. Bishop a6, for example. But then he has, after bishop f6, he still has queen d7 with the same idea, I guess. And now if knight e5, queen e6, queen g4, takes, bishop takes on d5, bishop takes, and knight takes. And white is a little better again. Okay, there is the move h5 here, but white has knight e3. And then again rook takes, e3, pawn takes, and g takes on f6. It's an endgame in which white has two rooks against rook and two bishops. It's probably unclear. Okay, but then there is also the move played in the game after f6, which is very strong. Queen f3, very nice. The threat is queen f5. White sacrifices the bishop with the idea of queen f5, queen h7 with an attack. So, okay, black has to take, otherwise the whole strategy doesn't make any sense. The move bishop b4 just to get an idea of how strong the attack is. For example, queen f5, bishop takes on e1, queen h7, king f8, and bishop g6, threatening queen h8, queen g7. Pawn takes on e5, and bishop takes on e8. And after queen takes, d takes on e5, white is winning. Alright, after pawn takes on e5, now white played the move d takes on e5, which may have not been the best. It looks like his idea is to play rook a d1, putting pressure on d5, and also the threat of queen f5. This is true, but it looks like black could have defended better. The right way, I think, is queen f5, and after queen g5, queen h7, king f7, knight takes on e5, rook takes, and pawn takes. Alright, rook e8, and probably this is a line that is, of course, I found with the help of the computer, but it's very entertaining. For example, now the move h4, the fight for the g6 square. So the queen doesn't have many squares, only g4 or h5. In case of queen h5, then rook to d1, and after rook takes on e5, bishop g6, queen takes, and rook takes e5. It's an endgame in which white seems to be better, especially because the a6 pawn is always a target. White will play rook e6 and rook b6 and win a pawn on the queen side and get a pass pawn there. So if queen g4, then bishop f5, and now he can play knight f6, for example, attacking the queen on h7 and also threatening mate on g2. So e6, very strong move. King e7. Okay, rook takes on e6 is also possible, but after bishop takes, queen takes, and rook b6 is the kind of endgame that white is better. He takes on a6 and plays a4. So king e7, bishop takes g4, and now rook d1. King f6, rook d4, g5 takes, knight takes, e7, and after, if bishop e7, bishop h5, and after rook d8, rook f4, white wings. And if rook takes on e7, then rook d6, king d7, and rook d7, and white wings. Alright, d takes on e5. The position looks very scary for black. Just white has the threat of rook a1, knight e3, for example. Basically, he wants to get the piece back and keep the initiative. Queen f5 is also a serious threat. But still, black should have played the move queen d7, and after rook d1, rook cd8 is the only move, and now rook d3 with the idea of rook e to d1. h5, knight h2, rook takes on e5, bishop h7 check, and rook takes on e5, king g8. The knight on d5 is pinned and it's not going anywhere, but white cannot attack it anymore if he tries to play knight f1 and knight e3, bishop c5, and it looks like black holds this position. So queen d7 was the real test in this position here. Of course, white has compensation in any case for the sacrificed material, but that's it. There is no more. After rook a1, rook d8, I don't see how else to improve. Rook d3, and then h5. Okay, he cannot play knight e3 because rook takes on e5. That's the problem. But in the game, Gustafsson played the move h5, which is a mistake. White played the right move, queen f5, and now he has a very strong attack. The queen h7 is unstoppable, so after black took the knight, queen h7 check, king f7, queen h5, a good move, king e7, of course not king g8 because of bishop h7 and mating in two moves. So king e7, bishop f5, okay, now black played knight f4, alright, and here after the move queen g5 check, king f7, queen f4, white has 3 pawns for the piece, and it still keeps the initiative, so the position is just it seems winning for white. I think there is no alternative here. For black, I think there are many moves. Queen g5 is a threat, and rook a1 or anything. The king is stuck in the center, so there is very little he can try. Okay, black played queen b6, and now maybe white should have played the move e6, cutting the board in two. Separating that pawn separates the queen and all the rest of the pieces from the king side. And after bishop c5, queen h4, and there is no solution for black. He has to play bishop f2, and the endgame is clearly worse. Alright, queen h5 was played, and after queen h6, queen takes, bishop takes on c8, rook c1, white has a better endgame. Alright, the game continued a5. The problem is that there are no squares for those bishops. They cannot coordinate very well, and white will get his pawns rolling very soon with g4, f4, in h2. The only chance for black is to create some counterplay against the white king, but of course an experienced player like this one will take care of his king carefully. So h5, rook c6, g4. Black cannot take on g4 in the end because of rook g6 or rook g1. rook g5, bishop a6. It makes no difference to play bishop e7. White plays rook h5, king g7 and king g3 with the idea of f4. If a4 now, then e6, and after bishop c6, b takes on a4 and f4. White is better. If he plays bishop b4 here, then rook e3, bishop takes on e6 and rook takes on b5. The same scenario in which there are no pawns left for black, and f4, f5 is coming soon. So bishop a6, rook h5, king g6, king d3, and now, okay, white cannot play f4, but he can play e6. Black cannot do the two things at the same time. He cannot prevent f4 and block the pawn at the same time. So after bishop f4, king h4, the king is safe in this square. Bishop g2, e7. Now the rook is tied in the back rank. Rook takes b5. Bishop d2, and white plays rook e6. Of course, with the computer you can do many things. Now I found this very nice line, rook d1, attacking the bishop. So it must go to b4, attacking e7 and also protecting a5. King d3 attacks the bishop again. The bishop doesn't have many squares. If you look at it, if bishop a8, rook d8. If bishop c6, rook b6. So bishop e4, f3. Again the bishop has the same problem. Bishop c2, rook c1, bishop d3, rook d5, bishop e2, king f2, and the bishop is trapped. After rook e7, a3, bishop takes a3, only move, and then rook c2. There are no squares for the bishop. Bishop a6, white takes on a5 with a double attack, or rook c6, of course. Rook c6 check, and rook takes a6. Alright, but this is impossible to foresee in a game. Okay, in the game, white played rook e6, king f7, rook e2, bishop b4. Still, it was similar, huh? Bishop f1 and rook e6, bishop d3. White doesn't give any chance. And the rest doesn't deserve any commentary here. White is simply winning. Very hard for black to stop the pawns. So, rook d5 and rook d4. The rook is in a square that is impossible to attack. It defends everything. So now it's bishop f8, rook d8, bishop e2 check, and rook b8. King f6, b6 takes, and rook a8, followed by b7 and b8, of course. Okay, so black resigns here. Okay, that's all the time we have for today.